Our second major transformation is synthetic biology, which you can think of as biology as engineering. And this, of course, comes about because today we are decoding genomes, right? We've already decoded the human genome, and we continue to decode other life, the genomes of other life in our world. And what synthetic biology is able to do is to approach this as cutting and pasting DNA, right? So they figure out, as they decode the genome, they figure out what these little snippets and pieces of DNA do functionally, and then it's like cutting and pasting these functions together to create an organism or part of an organism that functions in a way that you want it to function. And of course, we're able to do this today because of advances in biotechnology and tools like CRISPR-Cas9. And so we're able to actually not just edit genomes, but edit them in such a way that if that organism has offspring, it will pass on those traits and it becomes part of its DNA legacy, right? It becomes part of its genealogy. And of course, you see some of this today in places like China, which has a different set of ethics than we do. And so looking at that and how they have already successfully modified a baby using these techniques. And so when we're looking forward and at the sort of massive future potential that synthetic biology promises, you're looking at incredibly individually tailored medicine, being able to use genomes and DNA to really, really target things. And you're looking at things like designer babies and human modification. This is really looking at biology as a factory. So it's not just editing organisms and using it for medicine, but it's actually using life forms and biology to produce things, feedstocks and fuels and other things. On the flip side, the sort of the negative potential of all of this, there's the possibility for massive ecological disruption. And part of this threat or the downside of these things is that these tools are digital. And so the folks who are using them are not just scientists in very, very expensive labs. Today, using computers and equipment that you can purchase, this stuff is being experimented with and perfected by students and youth. So synthetic biology as engineering, is a huge potential strategic issue for everyone in the future.